Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hockey Writer season previews. I'm Mike Fink, and usually in the hosting chair, but now is covering the team that he covers. Matthew Zator, who covers the Vancouver Canucks, and usually is on the hosting side of things. So I guess it's a little weird that now I'm on the side of things. But Matthew, how are you doing? How does it feel to be on the other side of the aisle?
Every season I'm this way. So I never host the Canucks preview because I'm one of the only writers on the site. So yeah, it's weird feeling because I'm usually the host, but happy to talk Canucks and upcoming season. Hopefully it's a better one than the last one.
I was thinking about me hosting where it's like I like being the backup. Back in the day when goalies started every game and they brought in the backup for just one start, I like taking on that role. But we're talking about the Vancouver Canucks here. And before we dive in, what's the overall feeling around the Canucks heading into the season? Because everything, I guess the question is, how do the people view this season? Where either A, is it like the 2023-24 season where they were the best in the Pacific, or B, where everything went wrong last season, 24-25, and they miss the playoffs, and of course they turn over everything. What's the overall perception of this team before we dive in?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what fan you ask, I think. And some are optimistic that, all the injuries and the drama and all that stuff from last season is done now. JT Miller is not in the locker room. Elias Pettersson seems to be good. We'll obviously talk about him later on, but it seems like he's gone off season is going well for him. Seems like he's reset. I think the feeling is maybe cautious optimism. And then there's others that are like, yeah, this team's nowhere. They're missing a bunch of stuff. They're not going to be able to compete in the Pacific, all that stuff. But I think the overall feeling, to me at least, is like maybe a cautious optimism. I think that's the word for it.
And I think part of that cautious optimism, this leads into the forwards a bit, is the fact that they added a player like Evander Kane, who I guess what's interesting is that they added him. Vitaly Kravtsov's there, and I think my opinion in addition is keeping Brock Besser because it looked like he was gone. Now he's back, but the overall perception of the forward unit is: did it get better? Is it worse? I mean, they lost JT Miller at the trade deadline. I think they traded away Dakota Joshua, if I'm not mistaken. So, what's the overall perception when it comes to the forward unit, and more importantly, does Evander Kane really change things? We're bringing him in as this wild card type of player. Does he change things? Does he move that needle where all of a sudden the forward unit's a great forward unit to watch out for?
Yeah, Evander Kane's an interesting one because, well, obviously didn't play all of last season, regular season. Did come back for the playoffs and looked okay. Like he still put up points, but he took a lot of penalties. I think that was the biggest thing. He wasn't as effective in that he was just in the box too much. And I mean, his physicality is great, but he's got to stay out of the penalty box. That can't be a thing this season. But his size, his physicality, potentially playing alongside Elias Pettersson, which he hasn't had a guy like that on his line. I mean, JT Miller, obviously he's a physical presence as well, but most of the time they weren't really playing together. It was kind of a separated thing, unless they loaded up and played that lotto line. But I mean, I think Kane is going to bring, if he does stay healthy, is one thing. I mean, he's dealt with a lot of injuries the last couple of seasons as well. If he's healthy, he's going to make a huge difference on that top line or even the top six. I mean, there are projections that he's going to play with Pettersson. Others are putting him on the second line with Hedl. It'll depend. I think they'll try it in training camp, see where he fits, but playing with Pettersson, I think, is going to be a big thing. I think that should be a duo because he's physical. He demands that attention. He can still score goals. It's not like he's that far removed from a 20-goal season. And then you're looking at the fact that he doesn't back down. I mean, if someone's pushing Pettersson around, he's going to get in there and either fight him or, throw a big hit at some point. So I think he could make a big difference, maybe creating a bit more room for Pettersson, and he really hasn't had that. So we'll see. But I'm optimistic with Kane because I've liked him his whole career. He's, of course, played for the Vancouver Giants here. I watched him as a junior player when they won the Memorial Cup that one season. I mean, I loved him back then. I mean, he's gone through a ton of stuff since, but he's still a really effective player. I think he's going to make a big difference.
That's the big question, I guess, is when you look at Evander Kane, is he the missing piece for Elias Pettersson? Because Elias Pettersson's the player that now you're building your forward unit around. You've seen the upside. You wonder what type of players you need to surround him with. And maybe Evander Kane is that type of player. The big question, I mean, because Kravtsov's more of a depth type of skater that they're adding to the forward unit, but the big one's Evander Kane, where he's a top 6 player, potentially a top line player. He's a power forward. I mean, the question, I guess you could just ask Edmonton Oilers fans about him. They'll say he's a ticking time bomb, and maybe you worry about that. But if he's the right complementary piece to Elias Pettersson, then it changes everything. And I guess that leads into Elias Pettersson. So, Elias Pettersson in the forward unit, because when I think of the forward unit here, the big thing is Elias Pettersson. And the question is what pieces you need to surround him with, or what they do they have the right pieces to work a lot around with him. And it seems like he's the big storyline because of that, because they haven't been able to find that success. And when you trade away JT Miller, you're saying we are building around him. So I'll ask you, do you think first of all, do they have the right pieces around him now? I guess Evander Kane is one of them. And second, is it really, when you look at this forward unit, it goes with him? Like it comes and goes like with him and how well he's playing.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, the forward unit goes as Elias Pettersson goes right now. I mean, he is the star player. He is his highest paid player by far, $11.6 million in his second season under that deal. Obviously, everyone knows we don't need to rehash it. He wasn't good last season. He had a career low 45 points, and this is a career low in not just NHL, but his whole hockey career, back in Sweden, back in junior, all that. He's never had a season with 45 points or less. So it's like he had a bad season. Obviously dealt with some injuries. The tendonitis was something that he kind of dealt with all season, I think, even though he didn't really admit that. The drama doesn't have to be rehashed. We all know what happened with Miller and him. I think, like I said at the beginning, he's got a bit of a reset now. He had got married over the off season, which is that was kind of a hush hush thing, but they found out about it. So and then he's also done a lot of training, a lot of off season, to make himself stronger, faster, which is great. I mean, I think a lot of the time, a lot of people are saying, well, he falls down too much. He gets hit, and he just can't fight through that physicality that other teams, of course, will put on him because he's one of the top players. And now that Miller's not there, he is. I mean, no one's going to – I mean, he's the guy that everyone circles on the lineup card. This is the guy we can't let get going. I think he's still an elite player. I'm really optimistic with him. I think he's going to turn back to that 100-point guy. That was a couple seasons ago where he showed everything of what he's supposed to be in the NHL, why they paid him the $11.6 million. To be the face of the Vancouver Canucks. That's what they paid him for. And this season, he's got to show it. And I think it's just based on his offseason stuff. Of course, that's all things that we won't find out until the regular season starts, if that actually makes a difference. But I'm optimistic that he is back, and we'll see if the rest of the players can kind of complement him. Because, I mean, some of the other guys are great. They're good players, but he has the potential of being the elite star talent that the Canucks were hoping for or saw when he did have that 100-point season.
He's the player. Not only does he have the potential to be great, he has the potential to be one of those game-changing centers that if he hits on that upside where he takes over games on shifts. And Canucks have seen flashes of that. And it's interesting because you mentioned all the drama that's no longer there. I mean, probably no longer there, at least as far as we know. For now, it seems like the drama's in the rearview mirror, where you could say, now that all that's passed, JT Miller's gone. And another interesting one is that Brock Besser, who was a pending free agent, it weighed down on him, and now he's locked up long-term. Maybe he could just settle down and be a regular there. It seems like those are the two big storylines. What other things, though, stand out when you look at this forward unit? I think because aside from Pettersson, which just like he takes most of the spotlight away, and now that all that drama's gone, there's a new coach and all that stuff. We'll dive into that. And now that Besser signed up, what else stands out with this forward unit that really will make it a big one of the better ones in the league. At least that's the hope.
Well, I mean, all throughout the offseason, they've been trying to get a second line center. I mean, Philip Hedl is set in that role right now, and it looks like that's what's going to happen. He's going to be the second line center going into the season. So the hope is that he stays healthy. I think that's the biggest storyline with him, is if he's healthy, he's shown flashes that he can be a good top 6 guy. He's not had that opportunity on New York. He was mostly a third line guy. And then he looked really good when he came to the Canucks, and he seemed to change the offense a bit because he's very good in transition. He's got a lot of speed. He changed the complexion of that forward group, but then he gets a concussion again, and he's out for the rest of the season. So, I mean, it looks like that's behind him. He's healthy. Didn't have any setbacks in the offseason. It looks like he's training properly, which is good. So if he's healthy, he can be a second line center. I think that's the biggest thing, is that can he establish himself as that? Because if he can't, the Canucks are just very top heavy. They're Pettersson or bust. I mean, if Pettersson's not good, then the whole group is not very good. I mean, Brock Besser, if he can get back to that 40 goals, that's another big storyline. Is he had 25 goals last season. That's okay. And when he's getting paid $7.5 million, he's got to be that at least 30. I mean, I don't know if I'm expecting another 40 goal season. I think that might have been a flash, but I think 30 goals is definitely in his wheelhouse. And that's, I think, what the expectation of him is. And then Jake DeBrusk, he had a career year last season. He's kind of flown under the radar, I think, in the offseason. Everyone's not really talked about him as being one of the top. He was their top goal scorer. So, I mean, he might play with Pettersson. He might drop to the second line. And then, I mean, the rest of the forward group, I'm looking at it. There's not much room in training camp for some other guys to kind of step in. We mentioned Kravtsov. He's going to have a hard time cracking this lineup. I think that training camp is going to be interesting to see who takes that last spot, because I think there's only one real spot left to take, because you got the third line with Sherwood, who had a great season. I'm looking for him to kind of keep it going. But I mean, I might be a little naive or maybe a fanboy or something. But looking at the forward group, I look at it and it's a pretty good one. When you're looking at the top 3 lines, that's if Atu Ratu's another guy that I'm looking at. He's got to fill a third line role really well. You know him from the Islanders, of course. So, I mean, if he can, and he looked really good at the end of last season. So if that happens, I think their forward unit is actually pretty good. And
we didn't mention Connor Garland, who also flies under the radar.
Yeah.
He's been fitting very well in Vancouver. It's interesting because as you were talking, I was just thinking in my head, we need a bell to ring every time we say that if they are healthy, which is like, it feels like that's along with the distractions. When it comes to the Canucks, it's if they are healthy, ding, then they'll be fine. Which I guess you're talking about all the depth that they have, or all this players ready to come up. And it's not only that, just in the prospect pool, which in the forward unit, it's, well, if they are healthy, well, if someone gets hurt, then all of a sudden one of those players does have to get called up for the forward unit, where they'll have to fill in and avoid a big drop off. But yeah, you talk about, it's like it goes with Elias Pettersson as well. He's really the focal point there. And it's similar where you talk about if they are healthy and on the defense. I think it's the same thing you could say about with Quinn Hughes, where he missed some time on the defense and the unit fell apart. I mean, the team fell apart as a whole. Like the team we talk about the forward unit going with Elias Pettersson, the team as a whole, the Canucks, they go with Quinn Hughes. And when he played, he almost brought them to the playoffs. So you look at him, and then you look at Hronek, who wasn't healthy. That's, again, ring the bell if they're healthy. Hronek wasn't healthy. I think Tyler Myers might have missed some time. Yeah. You look at this unit overall, and it looks like it's again, it's if they are healthy, it's one of the best units. But what stands out to you of this? Because, I mean, I mentioned Quinn Hughes, and obviously we know he's one of those game-changing defensemen who can take over a game on any shift and really if he plays the full season, put the Canucks near the top of the standings. But when you look at this unit right now, they got Marcus Pettersson as part of the JT Miller trade tree, where, they got the first round pick. They sent it to Pittsburgh. That's a very Jim Rutherford, Patrick Alvin type of thing to do, and they did it. They also got Philip Hronek that way, ironically enough, where they got a first round pick and then they traded him to Detroit. But overall, what do you think of this unit?
I mean, the defense is their strength. It's one of them. I think when you're looking at the depth they've got, when you're looking at, like you mentioned, Quinn Hughes, of course, leads the way. He was hurt 14 games. I mean, I would say 14 games. That's not a lot, but it seemed like half the season with how much of a difference he makes. When he's not in the lineup, that defense looks so much different. They don't move the puck as well. You're putting guys into high minutes where there shouldn't be. Hughes plays close to 30 minutes a night. In all situations. He plays in the power play, he plays in the penalty kill, not as much, but he does get time there. I think this unit is one of their biggest strengths. Hronik and Hughes will probably play as the top pairing again. They're one of the most effective duos in the NHL. You're looking at Marcus Pettersson and Tyler Myers. That's second pairing right now. And then the third pairing is going to be interesting because you got other guys like Tom Willander who signed his ELC. It looks like he probably will start in the AHL, but he might be NHL ready. So we'll see how the training camp goes there. He might be on the third pairing. We brought back a few other guys, veteran guys like Derek Forbert, who didn't look like he was going to come back, but then he signed when they got his assistant coach in Boston. So it's like, it seemed like he likes him. So that's why he re-signed. So he's on the bottom pairing, and they signed him for a pretty good deal. So it's probably going to be, he's not going to be a healthy scratch seventh defenseman guy. So where's another one? It looks like there's only one spot on the defense for the guys like Elias. And he looked really good his first season in the NHL. So, and then you got Villon, like I mentioned. Then you've got P.O. Joseph, who they signed for depth.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this defense is very deep. It's also very mobile, and seems like it could be the reason they make the playoffs. We'll talk about the goaltending to be another thing too, but I think the defense is their strength, and I'm really excited to see how it kind of goes because, again, they got a new head coach who ran the defense, of course, last season.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing is that their defense is their strength, and there really isn't a lot of roster spots available to the point where the only spots are going to be available are if someone really underachieves, maybe like age catches up to Derek Forbert or something like that. And then you need a prospect to get called up or, of course, injuries. But yeah, you mentioned goaltending there. And I think what's interesting about goaltending is that's the one position we obviously know the duo. That's the one position where you don't have that prospect now who they can bring up because a trade that I guess went under the radar for most people, but for I guess people who follow the prospects a lot, everyone noticed it, is that they traded Artur Silovs to Pittsburgh, and he was the young goaltender to potentially come up through the ranks and be the young goaltender of the future. And he was the Calder Cup MVP / led the Abbotsford Canucks to the Calder Cup title, the first title in Vancouver franchise history, actually, interestingly enough. But they trade him, and what's interesting is that they re-signed Kevin Lankinen, I think, last offseason or early on this past season, and they extend Thatcher Demko, and the message is, this is our duo now. So, I mean, I'm kind of throw out the Silovs thing, but which is an interesting part, which when they re-signed Demko, I guess the message was we're not high on Silovs, so trading him away. Do you think maybe that's like a move that can backfire, or maybe he wasn't good for the NHL and he only was good in the playoffs, like somehow he got better when the playoffs came around? But second, is this duo, now that they're relying on two veterans, Demko, who again wasn't healthy last season, ring the bell. And do you think that this is a good enough duo though to rely on?
It definitely is. I mean, I think the biggest question is Demko going to stay healthy? If he is, and Lankinen can take maybe it's like a 60-40 split, that's one of the top tandems in the NHL, especially if Lankinen can play the same way as he did last season as the starter for the most part at the beginning of the season. Silovs, I'll mention him a bit here. I mean, I was a little disappointed when he was traded, but I knew that was probably going to happen when Demko was signed with that extension. I'm happy they extended Demko because I think he is a Vezina Trophy caliber goaltender. Lankinen, he's a backup. I mean, aside his great season last year, he's not a starter in the NHL. He is a backup. He's a really good backup, or a 1B, or whatever you want to call him. I don't think it would have been a very good thing to have Lankinen as the starter and Shelovs as the backup. Nothing against Shelovs. I just wouldn't have as much confidence in Lankinen being the starter. And you're hoping that both of them can come together and be a starter, I guess. That's what the hope would have been. So I'm more confident in the goaltending with Demko re-signed and Lankinen as his backup. Shelovs had to be traded. I didn't think they got enough for him. I mean, a pick. But I mean, goaltending is so interesting to see what value you place on these guys. You weren't going to get a first-round pick, probably not a second. So, I mean, maybe I'm a bit high on what he should have got for him, but whatever. Demko and Lankinen are a strong tandem, and I think their defense in them could be the reason they make the playoffs again, because they're just two great goaltenders. And Demko, if he can be back to that Vezina finalist form, he is a top goaltender in the NHL. So.
Yeah, the interesting part with Shelovs that they could not rely on a trio, just because if they, let's say, called him up and then put him on waivers, then you're really losing him for nothing potentially, where a team could claim him. So they had to trade him. It was either that or they had to keep him around and then potentially trade Demko, but it's better to build around Demko. But one question I would follow up on with this is, what is the ideal split? If you have 82 games, so let's just round down to 80, so you could pick 50-30, 40-40, just it's easier for math reasons. But what is the ideal split when you look at Demko and Lankinen? Because obviously Demko is your starter, Lankinen is your backup, but how much do you want to rely on Demko, especially since he's been injured and you need him, especially in the big picture for a playoff run?
Yeah, I really, when you're looking at the split, I think it should be close to half and half. I mean, personally, I don't think that's going to happen, but if Demko's going, he's the starter. He's probably going to play 60 games. I don't agree with that. I don't think that he should be playing that much because of the injury. I mean, yes, it seems like it's behind him, but this polypitus muscle that, I'm probably saying it wrong, but this knee muscle that kind of supports the knee, they said that it may never be something that goes away. He just has to be able to manage it. So that could come up at any point, and all of a sudden he's out for 2 weeks. So it's like Lankinen's gonna have to step in. So I mean, ideally, we're looking at an ideal scenario here. I want to say it's a 50-30. Is that right? Wait.
Yeah, with 80 games, 50 and 30.
Yeah, 50-30, right?
Yeah.
So Demko playing the 50 games, and then you're going Lankinen playing 30, 32, whatever you're kind of looking at. Because, I mean, even less. I wish it was just a half. You just go half and half. Some get the 41, other gets the 41. There you go. But I don't see that happening.
I think that's the interesting thing, because that's going to be one of the interesting things when it comes to coaching these days, is how you have to manage goaltending. In a league where there are very few elite goaltenders, having a coach who can understand the position / knows when to start one, when to start the other. You look at what's happening in Edmonton. Obviously, the discussion with Edmonton is if they don't have an elite goaltender or not to manage the position. But not credit Knobloch is he's managed the position where he knows who's the hot hand and who's not, and he knows, okay, I'll pull Stuart Skinner and go with what's the Calvin Pickard, if that makes sense. And maybe that's going to be an interesting thing with the new head coach Adam Foote, who one of the things, at least what's interesting about him, is that he's going to have to manage the position where maybe you ride the hot hand, maybe not, but it's going to be one of the challenges for him. It's also just there's a lot of interesting. He's kind of thrown in where he's got a lot of stuff to figure out right away. But what's interesting is, what do we think of the hire overall? Because I don't think it was really talked about. It kind of went under the radar a bit, where, I mean, Rick Tocchet getting fired, that everyone knew about that. And I guess the question was whether he wanted to leave / whether Vancouver wanted to move on, just move away from the mess that was last season. But they hire from within. I think we've seen this kind of hiring before, where an assistant coach comes in, and then the question is whether they can have a good control over the locker room. What do we make of the Adam Foote hiring? And I guess what we could expect from him early in this first season.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little in between when they hired from within and didn't go with a more experienced guy. But I mean, Adam Foote, he's it's the continuity. You keep the same thing, and the Canucks have changed coaches way too often in the last 5 years. I mean, they had Boudreau, they went to Tocchet. No, they first had Green, they went Green, Boudreau, and then within another season, Tocchet, and then another couple seasons, now Foote. But at least Foote's been here in the last couple seasons. So it's like the players know him. He just gets elevated to the head coaching position. He admitted himself it's going to be a different thing. He's going to have to maybe manage it a little differently than when he was assistant coach. He says an assistant coach, he wasn't the hard guy to, he was more the support guy. It's an interesting dynamic between an assistant and a head coach where it's like mom and dad type thing. It's like you go to mom and dad. It's like
the classic is good cop, bad cop, which is you're a player friendly assistant, but then if you're a player friendly head coach, you could easily lose the locker room, which I think we've seen in the past with a lot of assistants that become head coaches. So I guess that's the challenge for him now.
Yeah. So I mean, he's admitted that's what's going to be something that's going to have to deal with, but I think, of course, we all know his experience in the NHL. He was one of the best defensive defensemen probably ever. And, he knows all the stuff that players go through and all that. They obviously talked to him about what he's going to do with Pettersson and all that stuff. But, it seems like the players are okay with him coming in as head coach. A lot of them. And, of course, Connor Garland signing that extension. Demko signed the extension. If Garland wasn't confident in the coach, he probably wouldn't have signed. So it's like, I think he's going to be able to be good, but it's just to me interesting what kind of system he'll bring. Is he going to bring the Tocchet type system back, or is he going to make his own? I don't think Tocchet's system worked in certain areas. I really think the Canucks were a little bit more, I don't know. There were times, it's just so weird because between the two seasons, it seemed like they were really good offensively in the 2023-24 season. And this past season, all of a sudden they couldn't score. So it's like, and Tocchet kind of tried to become more defensive. They tried to change his system. And apparently he changed his system after the All-Star break last year. And you saw it. The Canucks offense just took a dive and they were losing a lot of the time. So I'm hoping that Foote kind of sees that and says, well, that didn't work. Let's go back to how we were playing, the system we were playing at the beginning of 20-24 and be more of a fast transition type team, because I think the Canucks can still be that. They have a lot of speedy guys, maybe not Besser. I mean, Pettersson, I wouldn't call him fast, but he's very good edge-wise, with his edge work and finesse and stuff like that. So I just hope they bring that system back, or maybe defensively they still got to be good. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I just hope that they have more offense, or a system that can get more offense.
I think what's interesting is you talk about having more offense there, because you could go back to Bruce Boudreau where they scored a lot, but there was too much offense and they could not defend. And it's going to be interesting because I think when you look at Cal Foote, he has a defensive background in defense. I think you could almost say that's what they're going to work on. And that's what they're going to focus on. Maybe they win a bunch of low scoring games. I think what's interesting is when you his background is on the defensive unit. Maybe he runs the offense through that, which isn't the worst thing when you have Quinn Hughes, Hronek, you have these puck movers on your defense. So maybe he'll want to push the pace, but through them and not necessarily through the forwards. Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting. And I think another thing to add with the coaching hire, taking a step back to going from an assistant to a head coach, is that when a lot of times people wonder when it's a hire from within, how attractive was the destination / with the Canucks, they rushed the hire, not rushed the hire as much as they were the early team to make a decision. They hired Adam Foote well before other teams were even making their decisions. And the question was, okay, maybe they didn't have a lot of people to choose from, or maybe a lot of people weren't looking at the opportunity to coach the Canucks. But one thing to consider here is that Adam Foote, it's possible he becomes a head coach somewhere else, where if he doesn't get hired by the Canucks, he's going somewhere else to become a head coach. And if that happens, you want to be the team that keeps your coach from within. You don't want to be, again, throwing it back to Chris Knobloch, who was a Flyers assistant back in the day, and they didn't realize what they had. And now all of a sudden he's coaching the Oilers.
Yeah.
He was obviously went to the AHL for a few years in between. But the point being that you don't want to lose that great assistant who's in your backyard and then they're coaching somewhere else. So you really hope that with their new head coach that he gets off on the right foot, but I digress. Let's move into the quick fire here, where I'll rattle off some things and then you tell me real quickly where you stand on them. Where do the Canucks stack up in the Pacific Division?
I think they're in a wild card. I don't think they're cracking the division. One of my bold predictions was they were, but I mean, that's a bold prediction. I think that's not going to be one of my bold predictions later on, but I think they're right there. Wild card. I mean, they're going to be in the same position as this past season where they were kind of flirting with that. I think they're going to make the playoffs, but in the division itself, I think they're still behind like the Kings. I think they're on par with the Flames at this point. I think they're right there with them. Probably going to be fighting with them for the wild card spot.
It's interesting because there's the big three. I mean, maybe the Kings take a step back. You have the Oilers, the Golden Knights. Kings maybe take a step back, but then you have the Flames, Canucks, and then the Ducks are slowly chomping at the bits. Maybe they're making some noise and they could sneak up on them. What's the biggest storyline or question mark as you look ahead to the season?
Elias Pettersson. I mean, of course, it's the biggest one. Can he become and bounce back from last season, become that 100-point guy again? Because like I said before, where the Canucks go is, especially forward-wise, it's where Pettersson takes them. Because, and I'll throw Besser in there too. I think that duo, they've got to be star players. They got to become those guys, the face of the Canucks, like Bertuzzi and Naslund were way back when. Because I don't think the Canucks they haven't established themselves as those two guys yet. I think they need to do that this season.
There's a lot of Pettersson questions, I feel like, in here, just because so much of the Canucks revolves around him. He is their best player, and he has not hit that potential, but I digress. Not a breakout star, but maybe someone else is a breakout star here. Who do you see potentially being that breakout star on the Canucks?
I'm going to go with Aatu Räty. I think he was, like I said, very good at the beginning, at the end of last season. He started kind of establish himself as a bit of a good third-line center. His face-off percentage was around 57%, which, I mean, that's what the Canucks need, is a great face-off guy because JT Miller's not there anymore. Pettersson's okay on face-offs. They need a guy that they can just go and you take a face-off, you'll win it. Okay, we're good. They started to do that last season with him, where he was just out there taking face-offs and then he'd leave. So it's like, I think he's going to break out and be, I don't want to say 20-goal scorer, but he's going to hit that 15 mark around there and be a really good third line and kind of say, we're not as worried about our center depth as it was before. So I'm going to say Räty.
This is the season where he could get a lot of ice time, and probably that's where they lean into it, where you're the third line center. You really tap into that role. Maybe he's not a scoring player, but he's a two-way type of center, which I guess they would really round out their unit. I'll ask this question a little differently because I think we have an obvious answer. So we'll say, aside from Elias Pettersson, who needs to bounce back this season?
That's the obvious one. We don't need to say.
Yeah, one player needs to bounce back is Elias Pettersson. Okay, aside from Pettersson.
Let's go for it. Yeah, Nils Höglander. He had a horrible season last season. He had 24 goals, 23-24. And everyone thought, oh, he's a 20-goal scorer now. All right. He just single digits last season. He's got to bounce back. He's got to be more of an effective player because now he's starting his new extension, which is over $300 million. So he's getting paid to be a 20-goal scorer now, not an 8-goal scorer. He was pretty good at the end of last season, but he's got to be really good this season. And depends on where he's going to play. He's probably going to play in the top 9, might even be alongside Räty, and they could potentially work well together. So I say Höglander, as aside from Pettersson, of course, but Höglander needs to be so much better than last season.
That's it. That's another storyline. I think that a big difference between the 2023-24 team and the 24-25 team is, along with the star players taking a step back, is that the 23-24 team, you had a lot of these 10-goal scores quietly. It was like, oh, this guy secretly had 10 goals, or this guy had 20. And it was like, all of a sudden you add all that up. Yeah, you had a lot of depth, or the Canucks came at teams in waves with their forward unit, and all of a sudden that wasn't there. Who's an X factor here? I don't know. Can we count Pettersson as an X factor? But who else? Maybe he's not, because he's obvious. He's the front and center there. So who's a player that could really make or break their season aside? I mean, maybe Pettersson is that, but who's the X factor on the Canucks when you look ahead?
Well, Pettersson is, again, an obvious one. He is an X factor of what he does, because he is a big question. He's a big X factor. He's everything. So a lot of these questions, you could say Pettersson, easy answer. But I'm going to go a different direction, not say a player, just health. That's supposed to be an X factor in itself, because if a lot of these guys are healthy, the Canucks are a really good team. Quinn Hughes being 100% all season, like he was when he almost hit 100 points and won the Norris Trophy. If he's back to that guy, I mean, it's not like he was bad last season, but when his health, it was, I think, a big issue, even when he was playing. So, I mean, it's just health. I mean, that's going to be a huge X factor throughout the lineup. Hedl. Besser was hurt last season at times. You're looking at, like you mentioned, Hronek, Demko out for most of the season. If everyone's healthy, this team is a playoff contender. But that's a big X factor, is that, are they going to be healthy? And that's not guaranteed.
It's ring the bell if they're healthy, it's a great team. I think I'll just add a little bit to that, which is if they're the team chemistry, which is like, if they could find a top six, which actually works, and they find the right players to go along with Pettersson, but also Brock Besser has a playmaker on his line that gets him open looks. So if they have a top six that works, then all of a sudden it's a very different story. The defense has that chemistry, certainly on the top pair, but it's really, when you look at that, when you look at the chemistry, and that's another thing Adam Foote's got to work out, which is finding the right combinations to get the most out of this group, because the talent is there. I think we agree that the talent's there. It's just a matter of finding the right pieces. They've got a lot of prospects too, so I'll do a two-pronged question, which is the prospects to watch, because I think what's interesting, you watch the way Abbotsford had their Calder Cup run, and everyone got to see, or at least everyone who watched the Calder Cup playoffs, which probably not everyone, but a decent number of people saw. They've got a lot of prospects there and a lot of intriguing names to potentially watch down the road. So who are some of those players that to watch, maybe who can make the team this season, but also who can make the team right out of camp or early on in the farm system?
Well, I'm going to say for a surprise, I'm going to go with Ty Mueller. He was really good in Abbotsford, taking over. He started to become he was the clutch guy that Malhotra would just throw out anytime he needs to win a draw, anytime they needed to protect a lead. He was out there. He also scored quite a few goals in the Calder Cup run, not as much as like Linus Karlsson, who hit a record of 14. But he's no longer really a prospect. He's 25 years old now. But he will be on the team. I'm going to say Mueller could surprise and maybe push a guy that should be making the team, like Kravtsov, who he's going to have to clear waivers to go down to the AHL, even though he's on a two-way. But he's going to have to clear. And I'm not sure he would. Depends, I guess, if teams think, oh, maybe he'll be good on our team. But I'm going to say Mueller is a surprise. As for like other prospects to watch, there's a lot. Like, you're looking at guys like Arshdeep Bains, who, again, he's going to have to clear waivers as well. So he might be on the team. You're looking at Linus Karlsson. He has to clear waivers, so might probably on the team. That whole like dynamic of which prospects are going to try to make that one spot or maybe three. I guess you're looking at that spot plus the extra forwards, depending on how many they take. Tom Polander is another one, of course. He's going to have his first AHL season, or maybe his NHL debut, depending on how well he does in training camp. I think he starts in the AHL and see how he does, because I think he's going to dominate down there, and then he'll be called up like really fast. Because Troy Stetcher had the same thing a number of years back, where I think it was an injury that got him in. But I think it's going to be the same situation where he can't make, because he can clear waivers, they'll send him down, and he's just too good to be in the AHL, so they call him back up. Lekramaki's another one because he's their top prospect still, or one of their top prospects, especially forward-wise. And now that Besser's re-signed, he doesn't have a top 6 spot anymore. So if he's not going to be forced into a top 6 spot, is my thing. And he might make the team. He probably won't. He'll probably be in the AHL again. But I see him still being in the NHL at some point. But there's just, and I'll mention one more. There's so many good actually, the Canucks have a pretty good prospect pool. Some underrated guys. Braden Coots. Everyone knows, watch Prospect Corner how much I love this guy. In training camp, I'm going to be interested to watch how he does, how close he might be. Because there's some guys that's like, well, maybe he'll be ready for the NHL. Maybe he'll play the 9 games. But the Canucks have to have open roster spot for him is the biggest thing. But even though if he does get sent back to Seattle, he's still going to be a guy to watch. So just a smattering of them. But yeah, there's quite a few to watch this season.
Yeah, the one I was waiting for you to say, and you finally said him at the end, is Lekramaky, because he's the one, you saw the flashes from him, and you're like, there's a potential top 6 forward in him. And maybe he's the one who, because Pettersson just seems to struggle to find the right player to work alongside him. Maybe Lekramaky's the one, oddly enough, that can, he's out, he's got speed. I think he plays a very similar type of game, I think, or maybe from a distance you see that where he can make plays in space. So he's an interesting name to watch as well, but they have a lot of players there. And I think that's kind of what's interesting about the Canucks system is that you have all this quantity, and maybe if you're a contender, maybe you want to move that for some quality, for NHL quality on your roster. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with all these players. So that, on the other hand, maybe if they start trading more players away, that they could give these players a chance, these prospects a chance to make the roster. It does make for an interesting sort of dynamic there. We're almost wrapping up here, but let's look at who is going to lead the team in goals, assists, and for both positions. I guess you don't have to answer for defense because I think we know who the answer. I think we know the answer for goals, assists, points is going to be. You might as well throw in the other stats like defensive point shares and stuff. Any stat who's going to lead the defense in that? I think we know the answer. I'll say I'm guessing Quinn Hughes. Yeah, bold prediction there, but. From the forwards, who's going to lead the team in scoring, goals, assists, and then total points?
All right, I'm going to go with Besser leading the team in goals. He's going to hit 30, so I'll throw in a number there. Pettersson is going to lead the team in points. He has to. I mean, it's just, if he's not, there's something wrong. He's got to lead the team in points. It can't be Quinn Hughes. I mean, he'll be there, but I don't think Hughes he shouldn't be the leading scorer this year, even though he probably will hit 90 points again. So I'm going to go Pettersson points, which he'll have the assist mark then. And then what do we got else left?
Well, we have point. Oh, yeah, we kind of said for forwards is who's going to lead it in points and assists. So Besser leads goals, and then Pettersson has enough assists and points. I guess you're saying he probably, I'd say, has 20 goals and then 60 assists to put him at 80. Well, that would put him at 80. So maybe he doesn't. Maybe then he wouldn't have more. That's a better question than a follow-up question, which is who leads the team in points? Is Quinn Hughes maybe hit the 100-point mark or a 90-point mark where he leads them in points? Or does Pettersson get enough goals and assists combined where maybe he leads the team in points?
Well, I'm hoping that Pettersson returns that 100-point guy, and he did lead the team in points that year. So, and then Hughes was like at 80, I think, that season. Or he might have been the 90-point one. I can't remember. 90 points was his Norris Trophy one. So I think it's Pettersson with the 100 points, and then Hughes close behind. I want to say Hughes is going to hit 100 points this season too, which would be great. But he's gotten so close the past few seasons. And if he was healthy last season, I think he would have. Yeah. So one thing that will happen is with Hughes is that he will become the defense leading scorer in all-time franchise history because he just needs 1 point to do it. So
Yeah, that's the least bold prediction, but yeah, I guess that leads us into some bold predictions. Which fire away if you have any.
Well, I mean, my bold prediction, I had an article come out with some of the bold predictions, but I'll throw a couple other ones that weren't in there. I'm going to say Pettersson hits 115 points this season. And that's bold a prediction because no one doesn't have a lot of faith in him right now. So I'm going to put that out there, and he's going to have 115, which would be, I believe that would be the franchise best, because that the last time someone was, I believe it was Henrik Sedin. He has the one. And he won the Hart Trophy that season too. So I think I might not be that bold that Pettersson's going to win the Hart Trophy, but I'm going to say Demko also as a bold prediction is that he wins the Vezina Trophy, stays healthy all season, because obviously you have to win the Vezina. So those are my two, I think, big ones. I could throw a few more, but I'll go. Oh, and okay, one more. I'll go with the Canucks making the playoffs as a 3 seed in the division.
Yeah, that's the more bold. I like when you were talking about Pettersson, it was almost a parlay bold prediction, which is that's where you really start getting intriguing, which is he clears the 100-point mark. Not only that, he gets 115 points. And on top of that, he's in the Hart Trophy discussion. That's like a parlay bold prediction, which is one leg hits, then the next leg hits, and then the next. I like bold prediction culture, how we've kind of gotten there, which is also that you can't just make there's a bold prediction and then there's a bold prediction, a really bold prediction, which is like Quinn Hughes winning the Norris isn't a bold prediction, but if Quinn Hughes wins the Norris and sets the record for goals scored, then you're really getting bold. Yeah. You're towing the line on some of the bold ones. I think Canucks being the 3 seed is also slightly bold, and there's a ton you could go down here, but I guess we don't have enough time for them. Anything else on your mind? Do we wrap up the Canucks preview? Just any quick thoughts to throw out there? Maybe I'll throw out one, which is that Quinn Hughes doesn't get traded. That's just one. That's not even a bold prediction, but just like one thing to maybe just put out there, because he's free agent after next season, but that's all the talk. That's all the smoke and mirrors going on there. But any other quick thoughts to throw out there before we wrap up?
Yeah, I one thing about Quinn Hughes, I want this stuff to stop, because I want him to come out and say, I don't want to leave, I'm staying here. But I don't see that happening. I mean, they haven't talked to him since that. I haven't really talked to him since Rutherford put that thing out in the press, in that one press conference, saying about he wants to join his brothers. I want Hughes to just shut it down. I mean, but I don't know. That's my final thought. I want just Quinn Hughes he can't sign an extension yet, but I want him here for the next decade. So.
Yeah, that's the one last thing to throw in there. I mean, maybe it's Quinn Hughes speaking up and Jim Rutherford maybe not spilling the beans on everything. Yeah. But I mean, for us hockey fans in general, we actually like the fact we have at least one GM who's willing to say whatever's on his mind or whatever's true. So we actually don't stop Jim Rutherford for at least all the hockey fans in general. Maybe for Vancouver, people want the drama to quiet down a bit, but I digress there. All right, I guess that's all we got. Matthew, I'd say thank you for joining. More, it's like thank you for having me on, because usually host these. So, but it was this was fun.
Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to preview the Canucks season coming up. But off season's been way too slow, so it's good to hopefully get some action here soon.
Yeah, well, the good news is that by the time this is up on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this, it will be September and hockey's around the corner. It's just it's under a month away at this point. So exciting stuff. Make sure to check out all of Matthew's work at the Hockey Writers. A lot of preview articles coming out about the Vancouver Canucks, and he's also the one previewing every team at this point. So he'll know everything about all the teams at this point as well. But check out all of his work at the Hockey Writers. Check out all the great preview content at the Hockey Writers, and check out the Hockey Writers Substack, which is emailed to you every day. And make sure to tune in next time. We'll have another great season preview on the way. Thank you.